Understanding Narcissistic Parenting. An introduction. Narcissistic parenting is a damaging style of parenting. It is characterized by parents who are excessively self-absorbed. Their own needs consistently take precedence over the needs of their children. These parents often lack empathy. They struggle to understand or validate their child's emotional experiences. The child's feelings are often dismissed or ignored. This creates an environment where the child feels unseen and unheard. The focus is always on how the child's actions or achievements reflect upon the parent, not on the child's well-being or individual development. This pattern can have profound and lasting effects. This type of parenting is more common than many people realize. It often hides behind a carefully constructed facade of a perfect family. The narcissistic parent may appear charming and capable to outsiders. However, behind closed doors, the reality for the children is very different. The discrepancy between the public image and private reality can be very confusing for a child. They may feel isolated, believing their experience is unique or even their fault. Recognizing its prevalence is the first step towards understanding and addressing the harm it causes. Many adults only realize in later life that they were raised by a narcissistic parent. A core concept in narcissistic parenting is that children are viewed as extensions of the parent. They are not seen as separate individuals with their own thoughts, feelings, and desires. Instead, they exist to fulfill the parent's unmet needs or ambitions. A child might be pushed into a specific career to make the parent look good, or they might be expected to provide constant admiration. This instrumental view of children is deeply harmful. It denies them the space to develop their own identity and sense of self. Their successes are the parent's successes. Their failures are a deep, personal, narcissistic injury to the parent. The insidious nature of this parenting style lies in its chronicity. It is not about isolated incidents of selfishness. It is a persistent pattern of behavior that shapes the child's entire upbringing. The emotional and psychological manipulation begins early. It becomes the normal for the child. This environment conditions children to suppress their own needs. They learn to anticipate the parent's moods and demands. This early conditioning can lead to long-term difficulties in relationships and self-esteem. Understanding this foundation is critical for anyone trying to heal from its effects or help someone who is. The grandiose stage, the narcissistic parent's self-obsession. Narcissistic parents often display a strong sense of entitlement. They genuinely believe they are special and superior to others. Because of this, they feel that normal rules and social conventions do not apply to them. This entitlement extends to their children. They expect their children to cater to their needs and desires without question. Any resistance or independent thought from the child can be met with anger or punishment. This creates an unpredictable and often frightening environment for a child. The parent's needs always come first, regardless of the child's developmental stage or emotional state. A hallmark of the narcissistic parent is a constant, insatiable need for admiration and validation. Their self-esteem is actually quite fragile. It relies heavily on external praise and attention. Children often become a primary source of this narcissistic supply. They are expected to adore the parent, praise their accomplishments, and reflect positively on them. If a child fails to provide this admiration, or worse, criticizes the parent may react with rage or cold indifference. The child learns that love and approval are conditional, dependent on their ability to make the parent feel good about themselves. A profound lack of empathy is central to narcissistic parenting. These parents are typically unable or unwilling to recognize, understand, or validate their child's feelings. If a child is sad, scared, or angry, the narcissistic parent may see these emotions as an inconvenience or a personal affront. They might tell the child to stop being so sensitive or get over it. This emotional invalidation teaches children that their feelings do not matter, or are wrong. This can lead to significant emotional suppression and confusion. The child learns not to trust their own emotional experiences. Many narcissistic parents are masters of maintaining a superficial charm and a perfect public image. To the outside world, they may appear to be loving, devoted, and highly capable parents. They might be active in school functions or community events, always presenting a picture of familial bliss. This public facade contrasts sharply with their private behavior toward their children. This discrepancy is incredibly confusing and isolating for the child. The child may feel that no one would believe them if they tried to describe the reality of their home life, further entrenching their silence and suffering. Subtle shackles emotional manipulation tactics at play. Gaslighting is a common and insidious tactic used by narcissistic parents. It involves systematically denying the child's perception of reality. The parent might deny saying something the child clearly remembers. They might twist events to make the child doubt their own memory or sanity. Phrases like, "that never happened," "you're imagining things," or "you're too sensitive" are frequently used. This constant invalidation can make a child feel confused, anxious, and unsure of their own mind. Over time, the child may stop trusting their own judgment and experiences, making them more dependent on the manipulative parent. Guilt tripping is another powerful tool in the narcissistic parent's arsenal. They expertly make their children feel responsible for the parent's emotions and well-being. A parent might say, "After all I've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay me," or "you're making me so unhappy." This places an enormous burden on the child. They learn that their actions directly cause the parent's distress or happiness. This fosters a deep sense of obligation and can lead to a lifetime of people-pleasing. The child feels perpetually indebted and responsible for managing the parent's emotional state, a role no child should ever have to bear. The silent treatment and the withholding of affection are cruel forms of emotional punishment. When a child displeases a narcissistic parent, the parent might respond by becoming cold, distant, and unresponsive. They might refuse to speak to the child or acknowledge their presence for days. This withdrawal of love and attention is terrifying for a child who depends on the parent for survival and emotional connection. It creates intense anxiety and a desperate need to regain the parent's approval. The child learns to suppress their own needs and desires to avoid triggering this painful rejection. Emotional blackmail is another tactic used to maintain control. This involves the parent using threats, ultimatums, or inducing fear to manipulate the child's behavior. For example, a parent might threaten to withdraw financial support, disown the child, or even harm themselves if the child does not comply with their wishes. This instills a deep-seated fear of abandonment or severe disapproval. The child feels trapped, believing they must conform to the parent's demands to avoid catastrophic consequences. These manipulative behaviors are not expressions of love. They are tools of control that erode the child's autonomy and emotional health. Parentification. When children become caretakers. Parentification occurs when a child is forced to take on adult roles and responsibilities prematurely. This is a significant boundary violation common in narcissistic family systems. The narcissistic parent, often emotionally immature themselves, may lean on the child for support they should be seeking from other adults. The child is robbed of their childhood. They are expected to behave with a level of maturity far beyond their years. This might involve managing household chores to an excessive degree or caring for younger siblings without adequate support. This is not about teaching responsibility, it's about the parent abdicating theirs. A common form of parentification is when the child becomes the parent's primary emotional confidant or supporter. The narcissistic parent may share inappropriate details about their adult problems, marital issues, or financial worries with the child. They may expect the child to provide comfort, advice, or validation. The child effectively becomes a little therapist or a miniature spouse. This is an overwhelming burden for a child who lacks the emotional capacity and life experience to handle such adult concerns. They learn to prioritize the parent's emotional needs above their own, often at great personal cost to their own development. Beyond emotional support, children may also be parentified by being assigned practical adult tasks. This could involve managing household finances, paying bills, or being the primary caregiver for younger siblings, or even the parent themselves if they are unwell. While contributing to household tasks is normal, parentification involves responsibilities that are developmentally inappropriate and overwhelming. The child may feel a heavy weight of responsibility, fearing dire consequences if they fail to perform these adult duties adequately. This can lead to chronic stress and a feeling of being constantly on edge, unable to relax and just be a child. The impact of parentification is severe and long-lasting. These children often experience a profound loss of their childhood. They may struggle with anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of being overly responsible. In adulthood, they might find it difficult to form healthy, reciprocal relationships, as they are accustomed to giving more than they receive. They may also struggle with depending on others or asking for help. Resentment towards the parent can build over time, as the adult child recognizes the unfairness of their upbringing. Healing involves reclaiming that lost childhood space and learning to prioritize their own needs. Section 5. Divide and conquer. Triangulation and favoritism. Triangulation is a manipulative tactic where the narcissistic parent introduces a third person into a dynamic to exert control and create conflict. This is a common strategy used to maintain power within the family. The parent might communicate through a third party, often another child or family member, rather than directly. They might also share information selectively to pit individuals against each other. This creates an atmosphere of mistrust and instability. The focus is shifted away from the parent's behavior and onto the manufactured conflict between the other parties, keeping the parent in a position of power. Narcissistic parents often use one child against another. They might openly compare siblings, praising one while demeaning the other. This fosters intense competition, jealousy, and resentment between brothers and sisters. The goal is to prevent the children from forming a united front or strong bond that could challenge the parent's authority. By keeping them divided, the parent ensures their own continued dominance. Sibling relationships, which should be a source of support, become strained and dysfunctional. This damage to sibling bonds can persist long into adulthood, causing lasting pain and division within the family. In situations of separation or divorce, the narcissistic parent may triangulate by using the child against the other parent. This involves systematically poisoning the child's perception of the other parent. They might share inappropriate details about the divorce, blame the other parent for all the problems, or actively undermine the child's relationship with them. This is a form of parental alienation. The child is put in an impossible position, often feeling forced to choose sides. This tactic is incredibly damaging to the child's emotional well-being and their ability to have a healthy relationship with both parents. Ultimately, the goal of triangulation and fostering favoritism is to maintain control and keep everyone off balance. By creating an environment of uncertainty, competition, and shifting alliances, the narcissistic parent ensures that they remain the central figure, pulling the strings. They prevent anyone from becoming too independent or too secure in their relationships with others within the family. This toxic dynamic serves the parent's need for control and attention, but it comes at a huge emotional cost to the children who grow up in an atmosphere of insecurity and emotional manipulation, never quite sure where they stand. Section 6. The Burden of Roles, the Golden Child, and the Scapegoat. Within a narcissistic family structure, children are often cast into specific, rigid roles. The Golden Child is the one who is idealized by the narcissistic parent. This child seemingly can do no wrong and is showered with praise and privileges, as long as they reflect positively on the parent. They are often seen as an extension of the parent's best qualities. The parent lives vicariously through the Golden Child's achievements. This child learns that their worth is tied to their performance, and their ability to meet the parent's high expectations, and embody the parent's projected perfection. However, the role of the Golden Child comes with immense pressure and a precarious sense of worth. The parent's love and approval are highly conditional. They are dependent on the child continuing to fulfill the parent's narcissistic needs and ambitions. Any failure to meet these expectations or any assertion of individuality that deviates from the parent's script can lead to a swift fall from grace. The Golden Child lives with the constant fear of disappointing the parent and losing their favored status. This can lead to anxiety, perfectionism, and an underdeveloped sense of self, as their identity is so enmeshed with the parent's desires. In stark contrast, the Scapegoat is the child who is blamed for all the family's problems and dysfunctions. This child becomes the repository for the parent's negativity, frustration, and unresolved issues. They are frequently criticized, demeaned, and punished, often unfairly. The Scapegoat carries the burden of the family's projected shame and anger. No matter what they do, it is never good enough. This constant negativity is incredibly damaging to the child's self-esteem and sense of worth. They internalize the message that they are inherently flawed or bad. These assigned roles have a devastating impact on both the children who inhabit them and the sibling relationships within the family. The Golden Child may develop narcissistic traits themselves or feel empty and fraudulent. The Scapegoat often struggles with deep-seated feelings of inadequacy, anger, and injustice, though paradoxically they may be the first to recognize the family dysfunction. Sibling rivalry is often intense and toxic, as the parent actively fosters division. Healing requires understanding these roles and breaking free from the labels imposed by the narcissistic parent, which is a challenging but necessary journey for adult children. Section 7. Invisible Wounds, the Deep Psychological Impact on Children. Growing up with a narcissistic parent almost inevitably leads to chronic low self-esteem and pervasive self-doubt. Children internalize the constant criticism, emotional invalidation, and lack of genuine affirmation. They come to believe the negative messages they hear about themselves, that they are not good enough, unlovable, or inherently flawed. Even if they achieve external success, they may still struggle with a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy. This core wound can affect their choices, relationships, and overall life satisfaction. It's a heavy burden to carry, often silently, into adulthood. Anxiety and depression are common psychological consequences for children of narcissistic parents. Living in an environment characterized by unpredictability, emotional manipulation, and conditional love creates a state of chronic stress. Children are constantly on guard, trying to anticipate the parents' moods and avoid disapproval. This heightened state of alert can easily develop into an anxiety disorder. The persistent lack of emotional support and validation can also lead to feelings of hopelessness and despair, common features of depression. In many cases, individuals may develop complex PTSD, CPTSD, due to the ongoing relational trauma. Children raised by narcissistic parents often experience significant difficulties in forming and maintaining healthy relationships in adulthood. Having never experienced consistent unconditional love or secure attachment, they may struggle with trust issues. They might unconsciously repeat unhealthy relational patterns, perhaps being drawn to narcissistic partners or becoming overly dependent or avoidant. Fear of intimacy, difficulty with emotional expression, and problems with setting boundaries are also common. They may not have a healthy template for what a loving, reciprocal relationship looks like, making navigation of adult partnerships particularly challenging. Identity issues are another profound impact. When a child is primarily seen as an extension of the parent or is forced into a specific role, they have little opportunity to explore their own interests, values, and desires. As adults, they may struggle to know who they are outside of the context of their family of origin. They may find it difficult to make decisions for themselves or to identify their own needs. People-pleasing tendencies often develop as a survival mechanism, further obscuring their true self. Reclaiming and developing a strong sense of personal identity is a crucial part of the healing process. Section 8. Recognizing the red flags, identifying narcissistic parenting. One significant red flag of narcissistic parenting is constant criticism, often disguised as constructive feedback or just trying to help. However, this criticism is rarely balanced with genuine praise or encouragement. It tends to focus on the child's perceived flaws or shortcomings, undermining their confidence and self-worth. The parent may seem to derive satisfaction from pointing out mistakes. This creates an environment where the child feels perpetually judged and inadequate. The underlying message is that the child is never quite good enough, which serves to keep them dependent on the parent's elusive approval. A narcissistic parent often shows a profound lack of genuine interest in the child's true self, their authentic feelings, or their unique interests. Conversations tend to revolve around the parent, their achievements, their problems, their needs. When the child tries to share something about their own life, the parent may quickly redirect the conversation back to themselves. They may feign interest superficially, but fail to truly listen or engage. This leaves the child feeling unseen, unheard, and unimportant. Their inner world is not validated or nurtured, stunting their emotional development. Love and approval from a narcissistic parent are typically conditional. Affection, praise, and attention are not given freely or consistently. Instead, they are used as rewards for compliance, achievement, or behavior that reflects well on the parent. If the child fails to meet the parent's expectations or asserts their own will, affection can be quickly withdrawn. This teaches the child that love is something to be earned, not an inherent right. They learn to perform for approval, constantly striving to meet shifting and often unspoken demands, leading to a sense of insecurity and anxiety about their worthiness of love. Narcissistic parents frequently play the victim. They are adept at manipulating situations to make themselves appear wronged, misunderstood, or unfairly treated. This deflects responsibility for their own behavior and elicits sympathy or guilt from their children. The child may feel compelled to comfort or defend the parent, even when the parent is clearly in the wrong. This victim stance is a powerful manipulative tool that keeps the child enmeshed and focused on the parent's needs. It also makes it very difficult for the child to recognize the parent's abusive behavior, as the parent consistently portrays themselves as the injured party. Section 9. Breaking free and healing pathways to recovery. The first and often most challenging step towards healing from narcissistic parenting is to acknowledge the reality of the abuse. Many adult children struggle with guilt, denial, or a sense of loyalty that makes it difficult to see their parents' behavior clearly. Validating your own experiences and recognizing that the parenting you received was not healthy or normal is crucial. This may involve grieving the parent you wished you had. Understanding that you're not to blame for the way you were treated is a foundational part of this awakening. It is about seeing the truth, however painful. Seeking professional help from a therapist or counselor experienced in narcissistic abuse is highly recommended. A qualified therapist can provide a safe space to process painful emotions, understand the dynamics of narcissistic parenting, and develop coping strategies. Therapies such as trauma-informed care, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, can be particularly helpful. A good therapist will validate your experiences and guide you in rebuilding your self-esteem and sense of self. This professional support can make a significant difference in your healing journey, offering tools and perspectives you may not find on your own. Setting firm boundaries with the narcissistic parent is essential for self-preservation and recovery. This can be incredibly difficult, especially given years of conditioning to prioritize the parent's needs. Boundaries might involve limiting contact, defining what topics are off-limits for discussion, or learning to say no without excessive guilt or explanation. In some cases, going no contact may be necessary for your emotional and psychological well-being, particularly if the parent remains unwilling to respect boundaries or continues their abusive behavior. This is not about punishing the parent, it is about protecting yourself and creating space for healing. Finally, the journey of recovery involves a dedicated focus on self-care and rebuilding your self-worth. This means learning to prioritize your own needs, engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment, and cultivate self-compassion. It's about rediscovering your own identity, separate from the parent's influence and expectations. Connecting with supportive, healthy individuals who validate and respect you is also vital. Healing is not a linear process. It is a journey with ups and downs. Be patient with yourself and celebrate your progress. You deserve to live a life defined by your own values and happiness, free from the shadows of the past.